One after being mistaken for the mistress for 6 years, I was unexpectedly hit by a car and died, only to be reborn. I was reborn into the moment when I desperately cried, threw a tantrum, and attempted to hang myself to make Max turn back. That day was his wedding with his white moonlight, Lily. They had been apart for many years and reunited on a rainy night. It wasn't until the moment before my death that I realized Max's long-lost white moonlight had actually been me. Meanwhile, the wedding proceeded smoothly, and I quickly discarded the fruit knife I had planned to use for a suicide attempt, packed my things, and fled. When I woke up, I was groggy, and the projection before me was broadcasting the live footage of Max and Lily's wedding. I knew that I had returned to the day my life took a major turn. I sat on the floor, staring at the fruit knife beside me, remembering that in my past life, at this moment, I had been preparing to slit my wrists in the bathroom but had tripped on the chair and fallen to the ground. A wave of fear washed over me, and I quickly picked up the knife. In the live broadcast, Max took Lily's hand from her father's and walked toward the center of the stage under the gaze of the guests' well wishes. Suddenly, I remembered something. I grabbed my phone, opened the screen, and canceled the message I had set to send. In my previous life, after slitting my wrists, a scheduled message was automatically sent to Max's phone. He had to pause the wedding and rush back to take me to the hospital. It was because of this that the exchange of rings was interrupted. Lily thought she had lost face and began to seek revenge on me. Not only did she cause a scene at my workplace, leading me to be ostracized by friends and lose my job, but she also distorted the truth online, accusing me of being a mistress trying to take over. Soon, curses and attacks filled the internet, and online groups called Beat the Mistress organized daily to throw rotten food and vegetables at my doorstep. Even Max's friends subtly and overtly distanced themselves from me, urging me to let go of the couple. Max, out of guilt for Lily, allowed the rumors and humiliations to continue. No one cared that I was the one who had been wronged. On the big screen, Lily had already slid the ring onto Max's finger when he suddenly stopped. Under the host's urging and Lily's expectant gaze, he wobbled and unexpectedly collapsed to the ground. I watched in confusion, not thinking too much of it, but secretly felt a sense of schadenfreude. See? Without me to stop them, their wedding can't even go smoothly. The live broadcast continued, and the scene turned chaotic. Max's group of friends rushed to the stage. Some called for an ambulance, while others knelt down to perform CPR on him. My stomach grumbled at the most inopportune moment. I turned off the projection and glanced around. Outside the door, there was a pile of takeout I had refused to accept for the past 3 days, now beginning to emit a foul odor. I immediately decided that, taking advantage of the current gap in time, I would leave. In my previous life, I always felt trapped by invisible chains, unable to make the decision to leave. This time I was determined, and it turned out packing up only took an hour. Before leaving, I looked back at the carefully decorated apartment. Everything in this place had been designed according to my preferences, and I had stubbornly believed that it was proof that Max loved me. I took one last glance and tossed the key behind the door. I left without any attachment. In my past life, I had been in a 5-year relationship with Max, only to be entangled as a mistress for another 6 years. It was only before my death that I realized why he had been so kind to Lily, the woman who suddenly appeared in his life. 2. Before the car accident, the information I received indicated that they had met on a rainy night, the innocent little flower of a new employee and the compassionate CEO, Max, personally holding an umbrella to escort her to her door. The little flower politely invited him in for a cup of hot tea. At Lily's house, Max saw a bullet casing in the living room and asked a few more questions. He learned that it was a memento from an overseas terror attack during Lily's time studying abroad, where she had blocked a bullet meant for someone else. She had survived the ordeal, and the bullet casing was kept as a reminder. Max was shocked because, during his own years abroad, he had also been in a terror attack, and a brave girl had shielded him from a stray bullet. But in the chaos, she disappeared after they were rushed to the hospital. When he asked more details, he realized they both had the same experience. The cold of the rainy night could not penetrate the warmth inside, and they immediately recognized each other, talking happily. From then on, Lily was promoted to be Max's personal assistant. Whether at company gatherings or on business trips, the two were inseparable. Looking back now, it seems so laughable. Max spent years searching for the woman who saved his life, but never mentioned a word to me. Even more absurd was the fact that my boyfriend of many years didn't care about my feelings while doing all this. The only way I learned about it was when Lily, through a careless upload of their group photo to WhatsApp, accidentally revealed it. Because of her, Max and I had our biggest argument since we started dating. He insisted that he only considered Lily a sister and did everything to make her life easier. I cried, unable to believe my ears. An easy life? An easy time accompanying you on business trips, holding your hand at cocktail parties, letting your friends joke and call her sister-in-law? Max's face darkened, his impatience clear. Zoe, can you stop making it sound so bad? Lily comes from a poor family but is very capable. With her around, I don't have to worry about work-related matters. I lowered my head, sobbing. What about me? When you're so kind to her, have you ever considered how I feel? Zoe, you know who I care about, don't you? Seeing me crying so desperately, Max softened his tone and squatted down to comfort me. Okay, I'll report everything to you from now on. I'll take photos with everyone and tell you where I am. Is that all right? I wasn't really trying to break up with him, but the me who had once looked forward to the future was afraid he no longer loved me. So, I agreed. But unfortunately, in the end, the expectations in my heart were destroyed by Max himself. After I settled into a hotel, I found my phone nearly overwhelmed with calls from Max's friends. If this were the past, I would have immediately called them back. But now, I ignored them all and opened the message from my best friend, Sarah. Max fainted at the wedding. I'm going to check it out. Guess what? When he woke up, he rushed straight to you and ignored that woman. Did he get beaten up by the god of sleep for that half hour? So strange. They're all looking for you now. Looks like you're getting your wish, even though I don't like him. I can't deny, I was dying of laughter when I saw Lily at the scene. Before I could reply, my phone buzzed again. It was Max. It was better to clear things up. I picked up the phone. Zoe, why aren't you at home? Before I could respond, he hurriedly said, I'm at home waiting for you. Hurry back. His voice was filled with urgency, but I sneered. Mr. Smith, we no longer have anything to do with each other. Wish you a happy wedding. 3. Before Lily appeared, I naively believed I could grow old with Max by my side. Even after her arrival, I clung to hope, reassured by Max's countless promises. I envisioned a beautiful future together after marriage. But I never expected that after marriage to be their marriage, not ours. Instead, I became the reviled mistress in everyone's eyes. After I slit my wrist to ruin their wedding, Max immediately called my parents. Humiliatingly, he threw a wad of cash at them, commanding them to take me far away from the city and never return. Up until then, I'd hidden many truths from my parents, still harboring a sliver of hope for Max. My parents were bewildered. How had their once polite future son-in-law turned so cold overnight? How had their daughter fallen to the point of attempting suicide? They planned to confront him, demanding answers. But before they could, Lily brought along a mob of so-called anti-mistress influencers, armed with cameras, lights, and microphones. They encircled my parents, berating them relentlessly. Why did you raise a daughter who destroys relationships? Is she just after Max's wealth and status? In their narrative, my family became criminals, schemers who pushed their daughter into Max's bed for financial gain, trying to steal Lily's rightful place. My parents, honest people all their lives, were utterly unprepared for such public humiliation. Overwhelmed by the flashing lights and jeering voices, my mother collapsed from a heart attack. The mob showed no mercy, accusing her of faking it even as her condition worsened. When my father, panicked, tried to push one of them away, they retaliated violently. Amid the chaos, my father was shoved down a flight of stairs. He died instantly from the fall, pronounced dead at the scene. My mother, rushed to the ICU, never regained consciousness, not even until the day I passed away. Max's intervention ensured none of the perpetrators faced any punishment. I spent an entire week waiting at his office, desperate for an explanation. When he finally appeared, I screamed at him, demanding to know why he protected Lily. He remained silent. Lily, however, strutted out of his office, smirking triumphantly. "You humiliated me at my wedding, Zoe," she hissed. "I'll make sure your life is hell for as long as I live." They walked away arm in arm, leaving me to endure the judgmental stares of everyone around us. From that moment, my life unraveled. I lost my career, my friends, and my family. Reflecting on my blind devotion to Max, the price I paid feels like a cruel joke. Never again will I let myself hope for anything from Max. In this new life, I'll stay far away from him and Lily, carving out a life that belongs solely to me. But before I move on, I sit before a mirror, tracing the faint scar on my shoulder, my mind steeled by a bitter truth. Max only loves Lily so much because he believes she once saved his life. But fate played a wicked trick on us all. The person who shielded Max from that stray bullet abroad wasn't Lily, it was me. I discovered this just before my fatal car accident when I received the detective's report. Remembering that forgotten incident caused me to lose focus while driving, and I crashed into an oncoming truck. This time, I've already obtained that report again. A knock interrupts my thoughts. Thinking it's Rowena with food, I open the door. Instead, I find Max, disheveled and exhausted. His eyes light up upon seeing me, and he moves to embrace me. "Zoe." I step back, holding him at arm's length with a cold gaze. "Who are you?" Caught off guard, Max stammers, "Zoe, don't play games. Come home with me." His sudden change in attitude makes me suspicious. The memory of his collapse at the wedding gives rise to a chilling thought. Has he also been reborn? That suspicion lingers only for a moment before he rasps out the truth. "I married Lily because she lied to me, she claimed she was the one who saved my life abroad. But now I know it was you who took that bullet for me. I was wrong, Zoe. I should have believed you. I love you. Let's start over." So, he has been reborn. Oddly, I feel nothing, no anger, no joy, just revulsion at his words. I meet his eyes, my voice ice cold. A bitter smile curls my lips. "Whoever saves you, you marry? Max, your love is truly cheap." 4. Look, he's still downstairs. Sarah leans against the window, chewing on duck necks, while watching with amused disdain. Since my harsh rejection 2 days ago, Max has been camping outside the hotel. I told security to kick him out, but he's persisted, waiting for me to appear. By now, it's already afternoon of the second day. Ignoring him, I focus on work. As a pastry chef, I'd finally earned an opportunity to work abroad. But back then, obsessed with stopping Max's wedding, I foolishly turned it down and even took a month-long leave. My boss, frustrated by my stubbornness, had cut ties with me. Fortunately, he recently offered me a second chance, this time at a branch office in another city. I leave next week. The move suits me perfectly, as I plan to start fresh somewhere far from my past. Breathing deeply, I glance out the window. Max is nowhere in sight. Good. I seize the moment to head out and buy supplies for my trip. But just as I step outside, Max suddenly emerges, grabbing my arm. "Zoe, come home with me." Haggard and pale, he reeks of cigarettes, his fingers trembling slightly. I wrench my arm free and take a deliberate step back. "We have nothing to do with each other anymore," I say firmly, turning away. Before I can leave, a figure charges at me. A sharp slap stings my face, the force nearly throwing me off balance. "Zoe," Max catches me before I fall. I look up to see Lily, her tear-streaked face twisted with fury. Behind her is a mob of familiar faces, those same influencers from my past life. The taste of blood fills my mouth as I glare at them. Wiping the corner of my lips, I feel a grim satisfaction. If they've come to me, I'll repay every debt they owe. Zoe, are you okay? Max's voice trembles with concern, but I shove him away. Lily, meanwhile, begins her performance, crying pitifully into the cameras. My husband hasn't come home since our wedding, and now I know why. Some shameless woman has stolen him. She turns to me, eyes blazing. Zoe, I know you're after Max's money, but we've given you enough. Why do you insist on destroying my family? Her words embolden the mob, their cameras and lights all trained on me. Stop this, Max growls, his expression dark. Lily, we'll talk at home. Ignoring them, I discreetly message Sarah to call the police before opening my photo album. In this life, I've armed myself with the truth. If Lily wants a spectacle, I'll oblige. The cameras close in as accusations rain down on me. Keeping my composure, I hold up my phone, displaying a series of photos. This was 5 years ago, when Max proposed to me with 999 roses. This one is from our 3rd anniversary, he personally designed my wedding dress. And this is from last year, when he organized a drone show to propose to me. My voice is steady, my words sharp, as I dismantle Lily's facade piece by piece. 5. I glanced at the dazed Lily, sneering lightly as I continued scrolling through my phone. Here, you'll find every gift Max has given me over the 5 years we were together. If anyone's interested, feel free to visit his home. I left without taking a single thing. I raised my gaze, locking eyes with her. If I'm not mistaken, Ms. Lee, you joined Max's corporation just a year ago. In that short time, you went from an intern to the CEO's secretary. Considering both timing and circumstances, what qualifies you to call me a homewrecker? The crowd froze, stunned by the sudden reversal. My peripheral vision caught a live-stream camera nearby, where comments flooded in. Turns out she's the gold-digging mistress. How dare she use us as pawns? Exactly. Expose her. Just because she cries doesn't mean she's right. I watched the crowd's shifting expressions indifferently, but Max suddenly grabbed my hand. Zoe, he said with feigned tenderness, you remember everything so clearly. You must still love me. Come home with me. I felt a wave of disgust. I'd just publicly exposed his infidelity, yet he had the gall to think I still loved him? Lily, now the target of the crowd's ire, snapped. She shoved an expensive camera away and lunged at me, her face twisted in rage. Max, don't forget, I'm your savior. You promised to marry me. Before her hands could reach him, he threw her off. Stumbling in her high heels, she collapsed ungracefully onto the ground. And you dare bring that up? Max roared. You're not even the person who saved me. If it weren't for your lies, I'd never have treated Zoe this way. Enough! I shouted. The room fell silent. Max, I began coldly, you let her flaunt your relationship in my face, let your friends call her their future sister-in-law. Were you truly just thanking her? Did you feel no guilt? And now that you know she deceived you, you come begging me to take you back? Your love is so insincere, and I'm not someone you can summon at will. From the day you decided to marry her, we were done. Let me go. This pathetic act of love is revolting. Tears welled in my eyes as I delivered the final blow, forcing two to roll down my cheeks. My crying seemed to stun Max for a moment. Cameras and phones captured every second of this farce. Somewhere in the room, the sound of shutters clicking rang out. Lily sprang to her feet, maniacally swatting at the devices. Hey, my phone. Don't step on my camera. Why are you hitting people? Chaos erupted. Lily's supporters, furious at her deception and now incurring damages, began shouting and shoving. Amid the commotion, I checked the time. Before the police arrived, I slipped away. I knew Max would be too busy cleaning up the mess to bother me for a while. Soon, I'd leave this city and build a new life elsewhere, where I'd bring my parents once I was settled. Everything here, good or bad, would soon become a footnote in my past. 6. The livestream went viral, garnering tens of millions of views. "Your memory proves you still love him" became a trending topic, particularly the image of Max's teary-eyed declaration. Memes of his pitiful expression spread like wildfire. Max and Lily had become the internet's latest laughingstock. While packing for my move, my parents arrived. Watching me with concerned eyes, they listened as I explained my plans to settle in a coastal city and bring them over when everything was stable. My father hesitated, while my mother wore a worried expression. "Zoe," she said, "after that public display, how will you ever find a good man? Why not go back to him? After all, they didn't actually get married, maybe it's fate." "What nonsense," my father snapped. "Zoe won't be lacking suitors." "But we saw the videos, how could you remember so much about him and still want to leave? It pains us to see you go alone." I couldn't help but laugh at their naivety. Their misunderstanding stemmed from taking internet jokes literally, believing I still loved Max. To the older generation, relationships were like broken furniture, you fixed them instead of replacing them. That's why they thought reconciliation was the answer. If only they knew that in a previous life, I had been the subject of ridicule, and my father, in defending me, had been pushed down a flight of stairs and killed. Taking a deep breath, I smiled. I have no interest in rekindling anything with him. I heard the city Arlington has great weather, it's perfect for retirement. Mom, Dad, I've thought this through carefully. I'll build a bright future there. Seeing my determination, they finally relented and nodded. At work, my boss scrutinized me, a trace of approval in her gaze. "The Zoe who once cried about pursuing true love has finally matured," she said. She was a tough, career-driven woman in her 40s, having rebuilt her life after a tumultuous divorce. "If you excel, I'll recommend you for an overseas exchange program," she added. We celebrated with a lavish meal at a high-end restaurant. To my surprise, Max was there, surrounded by friends, drowning himself in liquor. "The company's been a disaster, departures, sabotage from other shareholders, they blame me for everything," he lamented. "All because of that live stream," one friend exclaimed. Hearing this, Max suddenly choked on his drink, coughing violently until his face turned bright red. Realizing he had misspoken, his friend quickly tried to smooth things over. "Max, actually, why not just marry Lily? At least she's been by your side through all this chaos. Don't tell me you're thinking about going back to Zoe?" Max's expression darkened. He drained his glass in one go and slammed it heavily onto the table. His friends, knowing him well, immediately tried to pivot the conversation. "Then go after Zoe, Max. She loved you so much back then. She was practically willing to die just to stop you from marrying Lily. If you sweet-talk her a little, she might come running back to you." Max's face remained grim, but the man sitting closest to him chimed in. "Why bother sweet-talking her? Just look at how much she loved you back then. Everyone online says Zoe hates you now only because she loved you so deeply. She'll cave soon enough and come crawling back." Max's gaze shifted slightly, and he murmured to himself, "Right, exactly. In the past life, no matter how badly the internet tore her apart, she still couldn't stop loving me." Past life? "Max, you've had way too much to drink." The group burst into laughter. Max smirked, motioning for the waiter to come over. "Yeah, I'm drunk. Keep the drinks coming." From my spot in the shadows, I watched coldly, my expression unreadable. I stayed there until my boss finally came over and asked why I hadn't left yet. Only then did I turn to go. On the day of my departure, I made sure no one saw me off. Dragging my suitcase behind me, I boarded the plane alone. Thanks to the company's arrangements, I quickly got settled into a new apartment and officially embarked on the next chapter of my life. 7. As a representative from headquarters, my role at the branch office was positioned as an exchange and learning opportunity. My colleagues' attitudes toward me were ambiguous, uncertain whether I had been promoted or sidelined. Fortunately, despite joining midway through ongoing projects, I managed to successfully oversee several key events. Partnering companies praised my work, and I quickly built a solid network, establishing a strong footing in the branch office. One rare weekend, while enjoying a drama at home, my best friend Sarah called. "Zoe, have you heard what Max and Lily are up to?" I froze. Their names felt distant, like echoes of a forgotten past. My hectic life had left me no room to dwell on old wounds. While my colleagues were aware of the scandal, none had ever mentioned it to me. Life, I realized, is far less dramatic than we imagine. Once something passes, it's truly left behind. Max's company is crashing, stock prices plummeting, employees leaving, and now he's publicly hiring legal staff. The other shareholders are furious, trying to reclaim his shares, Sarah recounted. She paused for dramatic effect, then asked mischievously, "Didn't you watch the video I sent you last week?" Before I could respond, she continued, her voice alight with glee. "Lily's been taking care of him, probably still hoping to marry him. And Max, well, he couldn't keep it in his pants. They were caught in a parking lot, and the video went viral. He paid a fortune to scrub it from the internet." After hanging up, I felt an unexpected wave of irony. Max, the man who once claimed to love me, had never been able to reject another woman. Men's sweet words, I realized, are unreliable. Thankfully, I was no longer the Zoe who clung to illusions of love. My skills brought in steady clients, and many specifically requested me for designing desserts for large-scale events. My boss, delighted with my performance, secured opportunities for me to study abroad. Knowing my intent to settle here, she even helped me purchase an apartment. To celebrate a recent success, the company organized a seaside team-building event. As the guest of honor, I was toasted numerous times. When the laughter and noise grew too much, I slipped out to the terrace to clear my head. The cool sea breeze sobered me until I turned to leave and found myself blocked. Max stood there, his eyes cold and piercing. He strode toward me, grabbing my arm roughly, his tone mocking. "Dressed so nicely, living the dream, aren't you? I've heard all about your success. Who helped you? That man by your side? Did you sleep your way to the top?" His words dripped with jealousy, unable to accept that I thrived without him. I laughed bitterly. Disappointed? No chance to play the hero? Without you, I'm better off. His anger flared, his voice cutting like a whip. "Zoe, you're just like those promiscuous women." Slap. My palm stung as I struck him, glaring fiercely. "Show some respect." For a moment, he stood stunned, his head turned to the side. Then he slowly faced me, his eyes rimmed with red. "Zoe, let's start over," he pleaded. "I regret everything. I shouldn't have listened to Lily or married her. I've thought about you every day. Come back to me, and I'll treat you right. Didn't you always dream of marrying me?" His earlier rage had made me angry. Now, his pathetic attempt at affection disgusted me. 8. Feeling a wave of nausea, I turned my head away. "You love me? You only care now because you discovered I saved you. You remember how I begged you not to marry Lily, how I clung to you. It's not love, it's your pride. You can't stand to see me happy without you. You say you love me, but you've never been able to reject another woman. Max, you love only yourself. Do you remember what I told you before?" I sneered. "Your love is cheap." Max's face drained of color, his lips trembling as if searching for a rebuttal. "Zoe." A warm voice interrupted us. "Zoe, there you are." I turned to see Liam, the branch manager, approaching with my coat in hand. "You've been out here for a while," he said kindly. "Everyone's waiting for you to cut the cake." He draped the coat over my shoulders, his smile calming and reassuring. I nodded. "Let's go." Walking past Max, I headed back inside. As Liam held the door open, Max's shout rang out. You schemed your way to the top, sleeping with countless men. Sir, don't be fooled by her. She's cheap. I paused briefly, but didn't look back. Liam, unbothered, continued smiling as we entered the building. In the warm hallway, he apologized gently. Sorry for the earlier misunderstanding. I shook my head. It's fine. Do you want us to deal with him? Liam asked hesitantly. No need. Smiling faintly, I stood before the room's door. Once I opened it, warmth, cake, and heartfelt blessings awaited me. Seeing me succeed will hurt him far more. We shared a smile, and Liam opened the door. Light and laughter flooded out. I walked in with a confident smile, leaving the past behind. 15 years flew by. The company grew, went public, and I rose to a senior position, no longer chasing the frenetic pace of my youth. Max occasionally reappeared, spreading rumors or begging, but I avoided him entirely. Recently, Sarah told me he was diagnosed with terminal liver cancer. Lily was fighting for his inheritance, though he had never married her. Hearing the news during a beach vacation, I turned to see my Alaskan Malamute bounding toward me, sand flying from his paws. Laughing, I tried to dodge him, but he jumped up, leaving sandy prints all over me. Liam, I called, mock indignant. You just bathed him yesterday, and now he's covered in sand. Liam approached, hands raised in surrender, his laughter contagious. All right, I'll bathe him again tonight. The sun shone brightly as I hung up my call, a deep sense of peace settling over me. Those who dwell on the past, who love only themselves, will never find happiness. As the dog attempted to shake off water, looking comically distressed, I called his name and walked toward him. In the golden sunlight, he bounded toward me with clumsy legs. Opening my arms wide, I welcomed him, embracing the future with joy,